Okay, hi everyone. The video is finally happening. And today I'm going to answer these questions doing something that I really enjoy doing, which is Legos. So we're going to build this today, and I'm going to answer some questions. I thought that this was the perfect representation for this because you can change it. There's 3 different things in one. It's great. We're going to start with the Phoenix. So without further ado, let's open this box up. Boom. Bag 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. Phoenix. That's what we want. We want the Phoenix. First question that I got asked was, when did I first realize I was trans? And were there any signs or hints and foreshadowing that pointed to that eventuality? And the answer is a resounding yes. I can give you a few examples off the top of my head, but the biggest one that always stood out to me was when I was a teenager. I went to a little get-together with some friends. I think it was maybe around 16 at this point because I was driving. We were playing Truth or Dare, and I got dared to wear my friend Melissa's gymnastics leotard and plaid miniskirt. They all told me I didn't really need to wear it for longer than a few minutes. But as time went on, I just really enjoyed wearing that outfit. And so I wound up spending the rest of the time in that outfit. I played pool, I just joked with people, I was just in a miniskirt and leotard, and I had the most fun. The other one was in about junior year, maybe senior year of high school. I was in theater, another big flag, and we were just messing with costumes one day backstage, and I put on a drag show. And to this day, it is one of the most fun memories of theater that I have. Just me and my friends putting on a drag show, and I was the star. As if that surprises really anybody. I tried on a bunch of different outfits. There's photos of me somewhere on the internet in drag, but you don't really have to look that far anymore. Anyway, the fact that I was a theater kid, the fact that my favorite comedian is and was Eddie Izzard. Like, when I first watched her special, Dressed to Kill, I binged it so many times, I almost had the entire thing memorized. I could keep going on and on and on and on. Whenever the friends who I hang out with regularly, when I came out to them as gender fluid, everybody just said, yeah, that tracks. And then recently I had a conversation with another friend of mine. After I made my gender fluidity post, she said, are they going to find out that they're trans? Because she thought that I was doing a writing bit for a character. And then, yeah, she was right. So that's the foreshadowing, the tiny pieces of it. But the more I talk about this, the more I look back at my life, and the more I realize it was all the signs were there. Now, to answer when did I realize that I was trans, that was last year. I talked briefly about this in a Facebook post already, and am I going crazy? Am I missing these pieces? I'm losing my mind. Wait, do I have to dump all of them out? Really? Making me dump them all out here? Okay. Well, this is going to be a giant pain. I know why. Alright, I'm going to have to keep these in the stupid bags then. Okay. So anyways, to back up, realized last year, not too long after I got released from the hospital and started my gender fluidity exploration. It's hard to say exactly when, but it was a couple of months, I want to say probably around December or January, when that concept of me being trans really sunk in. I don't think there was any one specific moment that really solidified that realization for me. It was just kind of one of those dawning realizations where bit by bit the whole image kind of came together. I guess you could kind of think of it like being back in the 90s and trying to download an image, and it was just a bunch of really big pixels, and then as time went on, the pixels just kind of cleared up and then you got the image. That's, I think, a close representation of what happened with me. Actually, you know what? Let me back up. While I was sitting in the hospital, I had a very strong sense that I was trans, but at the time, I think I just wrote it off subconsciously because I was, under the fear of death and wondering whether I was going to make it out of the hospital alive and all of that insanity. So when I finally had some time by myself to really think about it, it still took me a couple of months afterwards to really really understand what I was feeling. And this was all precipitated by, you know, writing my book. My friend asked me once, after I described my main character to her, who is a lesbian alcoholic werewolf, and I tell her that my main character is a self-insert for me and my journey through alcoholism. And she asked me a very prescient question, though I didn't realize it at the time. Why did you feel the need to write yourself as a woman? Well, then I didn't have an answer for her. I kind of just went with the standard, oh, well, you know, representation for Latino people is so important. We don't see any Latinos, even fewer Latinas in leading roles in sci-fi, which is all actually true. But the truth is, at the time, I kind of deer in the headlights. I panicked. I didn't have an answer because it threw me. So after that conversation, I didn't really actually think about it for too much, again, for quite some time. Oh, this goes on top. Shit. But it wasn't until I started researching for book 2 that I really started to ask myself these questions. And the reason was, even though I read a lot of books written by women when I wrote the first draft of my book, because at the time, the logic was, if I'm going to be writing from the point of view of a woman, I might as well read books written by women about women to make sure that I got as much authenticity as I at the time, a cis man could muster. For book 2, I this time got into romantasy thanks to my wonderful wife, Liza. And first I started with Aquitar, and then I read Fourth Wing, and then I switched gears into the sapphic romantasy. Where the fuck is the stupid piece that I need? This is so annoying. I swear to God, half the video is going to be me looking for one tiny fucking thing because the stupid instructions force me to dump every single piece out on here because it's mix and match. And now I can't find the piece I need. Oh. Because it's actually much brighter, I see. It's this one. I hate this stupid color. I hate being colorblind. Anyways, help me find this. This one. Here we go. So when I was researching book 2, I switched over to reading romantasy, but of the sapphic variety, and not just the fantasy romance. I read every kind of romance. I read sporty romance. I read age gap boss romance. I read celebrity dating romance. I read fake dating romance. I read bodyguard romance, fantasy romance, dark romance, which turns out I actually really like dark romance. Vampire, werewolves, shifters, all of it. I read something like 65 books in the span of a handful of months. And while I was reading those books was when I had the sudden revelation that these books much more closely aligned with the way that I feel attraction toward women, the way that I think about women, especially when it comes to a lot of the themes in some books that dealt with realizing things about yourself later on in life. Those were my favorite books. Books like When Stars Collide, where the middle-aged woman realizes that she's gay and has that whole arc of discovery. That felt very resonant to me. And that was what cued my gender fluidity. Fast forward to my stroke, and I'm sitting in the hospital, and I'm faced with the possibility of the 50% chance that I wasn't going to make it out of there alive. And as I mentioned in my previous post, that thought kept playing over and over in my head of, I've wasted so much time. What the fuck? God, this is so annoying. I don't like this, I've decided. Why do you make me hunt for these stupid things? Because you make me dump everything out on the same freaking table. Oh, I much preferred it when I only had to dump a couple of things on the table. Now I'm gonna be whiny. Come on, I know I saw you around here somewhere. They've got to come up with a better system for this.
3 hours later.
Here I spent all this time thinking I had to find a black one. If I just looked at it, I would realize it has to be red. Moron. So as I was saying, in the hospital bed, thinking like those older characters in those books that I'd wasted so much time. And I guess you could say that was when I realized that I was trans, but I don't think I fully accepted it for another couple of months. Because it's a scary concept, transition, you know? So much changes. You know, life is easier when I'm going to be honest, it was easier when I thought I was cis. You know? When I didn't need to worry about which bathrooms I can go to, which country I can travel to, whether my kids are going to be on board with it or not. All the insanity that comes with transition, you know, life would be easier. But I don't think I know how to have an easy life. So here we are. Anyways, then I came out publicly, and I came out publicly probably about a month and a half or so, maybe 2 months before I came out to people that I knew personally. I'm sure I could go back to my chat logs and find it, but all the people that I talk to regularly, it would take me hours just to keep scrolling back up, so I'm not going to bother. Okay, I'm going to move on from this topic because I could spend literal hours talking about it. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to move on to happy surprises. So many happy surprises. The first one being one that I posted to Facebook and shared with everybody, which was when I noticed that my face changed. That was a huge happy surprise. The other happy surprise was how few people I wound up losing through this whole process. At least the ones that have made it known to me. I truly thought I would lose a lot more people, but the fact is that hasn't come to pass yet. That's been really happy. The amount of support that I've gotten from everybody has been overwhelming and amazing. And then the other smaller everyday things, like it feels as though my life just has more color in it, or colors are more vibrant. It's hard to describe just this ambient sense of vibrancy that my life has now. I feel so much more like I can finally express the full breadth of who I am, because I'm finally starting to understand the full breadth of who I am. It's been great. You know, it's been amazing. Acceptance, or lack thereof. How do I deal with it? To be honest, I haven't had to deal with a whole lot of negativity. So most of the time, the only negativity that I face is out in public with strangers who cast me the odd stare, people who will shield their children away from me when 100% of the time, kids could not care any less. I've had kids come up to me and then just point blank ask me, "Are you a boy?" Or a girl. That's happened to me a number of times, and every time it's a delight, because it just reminds me how kids are never the actual problem. So that's good. As for acceptance, you know, the people who are important accept me, and that's all that matters. That's how I deal with the acceptance. You know, there are some people who are hesitant or reluctant to accept this about me, and that's on them. That's how I deal with it. I just realize I can do fuck all about it. I can't do anything about what other people are going to do and think about me. So that's pretty much where I'm at for that now. The truth is I'm losing my mind again. Okay, here's one. Now I need the clippy part. It better be in this pile, you piece of shit. No, of course it's not in that pile. Why would it be in that pile? You know, close to the pile that aha! Found it. See, all you have to do is start whining about something, and then it'll fix itself. Now I put this here. Ooh, that means that something here is going to move up and down. That's exciting. All right, moving on to the actual hardest question here, which is kids. How are they handling it? To be honest, they did not handle it well at first. Genevieve especially was very distraught by the idea. Mel also had difficulty at the start. And who can really blame them, right? This is a huge shift for them and huge change, and they're adjusting pretty well now. Mel's biggest thing, according to what he told me when I went to therapy with him, was that he was not thrilled about being the only boy in this whole household. I think he might have felt a bit more like no one's going to be able to relate to him as he grows up, um, which isn't true. You know, I went through everything that he's going to be going through for 40 years. So I think now he's realized that this whole process of transition is much longer than everyone thought. And he has way more time to adjust to things. So he's actually pretty chill. I don't think I've ever heard him misgender me once. Genevieve still struggles. She's not a big fan of change. She slips up with my pronouns pretty frequently, but she's quick to correct herself. And she doesn't beat herself up about it because I don't make a big deal about it. And she will, on occasion, remind me that she's not thrilled about me transitioning. There's just a lot of things that she still wishes that I had, like more body hair, which was kind of funny that she told me that she misses how hairy I used to be when I really don't like it. But it's never a change what you're doing for me kind of statement. It's always just, I want you to know how I'm feeling statement. So I always take it as exactly that. So when she says, I still wish you weren't transitioning, I say, well, I'm sorry, honey, but you know, it's not really a choice for me. And she understands to a degree. But if I'm being totally honest, it's those moments that keep me awake, quite literally. At night, I think about the kids, and I think maybe I suppress everything again for their sake. Before I come to the final conclusion that would just be, you know, a worse situation for everyone involved. I would be unhappy. I would always feel like I never got to actually be myself, and I don't want my kids to feel like they can't be themselves either. So as hard as it is, I stick with it because I have to set the example regardless of how hard it is for me. I don't ever want my kids to feel like they have to hide who they are. You know, my family did the best they could with what they knew. And sometimes, you know, sometimes it's all you can really do. Yeah. I still, almost daily. We think about this almost daily. Last topic, support. How can you support me? Number one, stop worrying about gendered terms of endearment. Really. Dude, bro, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get offended. Don't tiptoe around any terms of endearment that you got used to calling me. Honestly, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It just kind of makes conversation more awkward than it needs to be. So just go with whatever the normal thing is. I promise it will be fine. Secondly, I don't really feel comfortable asking people to do very much for me. These are not easy times for anyone. I mean, the state of the world is so fucked. Everything is so insanely expensive that I would feel as though I was doing a disservice to my friends by asking for any kind of support outside of whatever it is that you can give me. And if all you can give me is a like on my post, that's all I need. For those who are able to donate to the Trevor Project. That's the first thing that I can think of off the top of my head. Suicide hotlines. Because they need that a lot. I have a feeling with the intense scrutiny that trans people are under, especially right now, a lot of other people who don't have the support system that I have are going to need a lot more help than me. So I would say prioritize them. I'm good. I have, I think, pretty much all of the really important support that I need. What I need from my friends, more than anything, is more of this, more interaction, more questions, more curiosity, more genuine interest in what's happening, because I like to talk about it. It helps me process things and sort things out for myself when I can talk it out with others. And I hope that I can provide some kind of positive view on this whole transition thing for anyone who may or may not be against it philosophically. Dumb philosophy, but whatever. run interference if I need it in the bathroom, because that's still a really scary situation for me, especially if there are any children around, because people get really weird about that. But ultimately, like, you guys, I'm pretty good. Honestly, I have so much support at home with, you know, with my mom and my brothers, with Liza, the kids. They're all, despite the fact that they don't want the transition to happen, they're all very supportive. So that's it. That's all I got. Keep the questions coming. I can keep doing these fun videos where I stare at Legos like I'm a crazy person and trying to find a specific piece that I can't find because they make me dump all 5 bags into one giant pile. Anyways, have fun. I'll see you all in the next one.